on WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Millions of Americans in this country suffer from some sort of autoimmune disorder or disease, and sadly, the majority of them are women. Our next guest was able to eat her way and cook her way to better health. Joining me now is the author of My Kitchen Cure, How I Cooked My Way Out of Chronic Autoimmune Disease, and My Pinewood Kitchen, a Southern Culinary Cure, Mee Tracy McCormick. Mee, welcome to the Bloom Health Club.
Thank you for having me.
Man, it is such a pleasure to talk to you, and you have the most incredible story. But before we hear more about it, I just want to introduce you to Sarah Smith. She's a lead producer on our syndicated health and wellness show, Bloom, and she is behind the scenes directing the Bloom Health Club today. She'll be jumping in with some questions, too.
Very happy
Sarah.
to be here.
So, Mee, talk to me a little bit about what happened to you that really changed the course of your own personal life and led to you helping so many other people heal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic story of what happens to us can happen for us. And I had a total ulceration in my small intestine. I suffered, like so many people, with gradual digestive distress. And so I was bloated, discomfort, pain, and then that pain just increased. I suffered 15 bowel obstructions and was hospitalized for them. And I was at the point where I was 98 pounds and I couldn't eat or drink water. And then finally, after going to every doctor from the lead gastroenterologist in Guadalajara, Mexico, to Cedars-Sinai in LA, to Vanderbilt, I finally found a doctor at Cedars-Sinai that found this massive ulceration. And the ulceration was about to burst because it was the total circumference of my small intestine. And that meant it was just going to rupture. And, that led to figuring out the only thing that touches the lining of the intestine is food. And I had one of those moments where you think, what is it and what's in it? And this was 17 years ago when no one was talking about what's in it, meaning what are we eating? What's in our food? What are we doing? What are we putting into our bodies? And so that led me down a rabbit hole that brought me to you.
Yeah, and we're glad you're here today. And I think about it, 17 years ago, I think the rest of us were collectively eating our way to becoming sick, because now the correlation between our gut health and our overall health is just, even our mental health is just unbelievable. And I thought I was eating healthy, but I was eating all these so-called healthy processed foods. And next thing you know, I wake up with hypothyroidism, and I went on a 7-year journey. And I would say within the last 6 to 8 months, met a doctor that's like, not with the prescription medications that just kept going up and up and up, but was like, tap the brakes, Gail, we got to change what you're eating. And that's when my body started to heal. And the same thing happened to you. You went to culinary school. You really, really dug deep when it came to healing.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to live. And when you're in pain all of the time, you're not participating and you're missing out. And I was in pain all of the time, and pain is a distraction, and you can't focus, and you're partially in the room. And I had little tiny babies and a husband that I love and an incredible life, and I wasn't able to be 100% present. And I just wanted to feel better. And then once you start feeling better because you embark on this journey, then that's why I'm such a wild card. Like, I want to shimmy all the time because I can, because I know what it felt like to be clenched and locked and not able to participate. So, I'm in.
You're in. And you've had this incredible life. Talk to me about like living on a ranch, owning restaurants. When you hear this woman's incredible history, it's like, is there anything that me can't do?
Well, yeah. I didn't do it all the time, by the way. We just do our best. Yeah, I've had a great life. I've lived on a major cattle ranch, raising grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pasture wood-raised hogs, biodynamic produce, an orchard, raised bees, honey, and mushrooms in the woods, and then ran a restaurant on the farm where I grew everything, picked it, got it to the table, and served it in an inclusive kitchen. meaning a mindfulness that everyone has a different way they need to eat. And let's put a plate for everyone at the table.
You know, you and I talked about this. My family wasn't in cattle ranching, but we were dairy farmers. And everything my grandmother cooked came from the farm or my uncle's nearby garden. And nobody was sick back then. And I look around, fast forward, I lost both of my parents to cancer, and cancer doesn't run in our DNA when you do. So I thought to myself, it has to be the food. And as a child, I never remember being sick. Nobody was ever sick. It wasn't until later in life when they started injecting the animals and altering what we eat that people started getting sick. And I mean, really sick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it used to be, health insurance was something that you got, if you got sick. Mm-hmm. But now we have health care for when we get sick. And so it's a matter of time. And it is. It's the environment. It's the food. It's the stress. It's the emotional state that we live in. It's the water, it's the soil. And so we're biodynamic. We grow our produce biodynamically. That means we're mindful of the soil, what the food is grown in. And that's the game changer. But the exciting thing for me is that now people like the two of us exist. Look at us right here, right now, talking to y'all. Yeah. Telling you that you can change your ways, that there's a different way. And that's what it's about for me.
And because you did, speaking of changing your ways, I mean, you truly healed yourself.
Mm-hmm. I'm still healing myself. So I started off in macrobiotics. So macrobiotics 17 years ago, there was no one talking about food. There were no food books, no books on eating for wellness. It was only macrobiotic cooking. And I connected to a woman who ran the digestive department at the Shaw Wellness Center in Spain. And she taught me how to cook whole grains, sea vegetables, fermented foods, legumes, and I started there, which was really pretty amazing to start there 17 years ago instead of in a classically trained kitchen. And I really absorbed it all. I found my way. I studied everything that I could. I had Dr. Joan Borncinco, who's like one of my mamas, and she was sending me articles because she's, a Harvard affiliate and Harvard, graduated from Harvard in cellular biology and has written 15 books. So she was sending me things going, you got to change your food. You got to change your food. You got to change your food. And then I made a lot of really terrible food. But my husband ate it.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, he was like, it's great. Keep going. But within a year, I was off the floor and that terrible pain was gone. And then I decided, well, there can't be one way. This is how I think. I'm not a fundamentalist. I think big. Like everyone is different and there has to be another way. So I went to culinary school in Los Angeles. I kind of went in as a spy because I already knew I had knife skills. You know what I mean? But they didn't want to hear it. It's French classic. So I couldn't eat one thing that was there because I was diagnosed with celiac and I had a really strong dairy allergy as a baby and then severe sensitivity because my digestive system was disrupted. I had a dysbiosis in bacteria. So I couldn't eat dairy at all. So I would just make everything they would tell me how to make. And then I'd go home, go to the market, buy ingredients that I thought I could swap out. I learned there about fats and proteins and what we crave. Mm-hmm. It was a real blessing. And I would go home and I would change the recipe and then I would figure it out. And then I thought, well, I should write my first book. Was me writing just because I knew there were a million me's out there. I'm not alone. In anything I go through, there is always someone else just like you. I mean, different circumstances, but same spirit. Or maybe they're suffering. So I wrote my kitchen cure. I was one of the first Amazon authors when they did the self-publishing, and I worked with a company in Florida called The Book Couple. We put it together, and I went, boop, now it's up. Now people don't have to email me anymore. I mean, that's it. That's it. That's all I got. And then I got on The Better Show, Meredith Studios in New York, and I just would fly to New York every 2 weeks, shoot a bunch of segments, and go home. And I thought, the thing is that when I was really sick, I got really clear in my spirit. And in my spirit, I said, if you can show me a way to wellness, I'll serve other people. And so I did. And that's where it took me. And I went to New York City, y'all.
I love it. And this is what really resonates with Sarah and I talk about this probably ad nauseum in the Bloom office together because, together we both believe in like tapping into the spiritual side. And we've met so many people along the way in our personal journey of helping to build Bloom to the show it is today that that plays a big role when you say, Sarah, in a lot of people's successes.
I 100% agree. I think faith is a big part of my life, and it's been a big part of my life for the last year and a half, and my whole life. You know, I would say I was my sickest in college, and I came here a year and a half ago, and I was eating like crap. I was having thyroid problems that I didn't know about. And then when I moved here, I healed my food, and then I became more faith-based, and my whole life transformed.
And think about it. I mean, she's talking thyroid disease in her early 20s. So if that's not screaming from the top of the mountain that something is wrong with the way food is processed and what we have access to in this country, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean, that's a really fascinating thing to me, is that the small intestine is the house where 70% of your immune system lives, right? Your immune cells. Mm-hmm. And then you have the mucosal lining in the small intestine. And the bacteria, there's a place for a small amount of bacteria in the small intestine if it resides in the mucus. Now, if bacteria moves up from the colon into the small intestine, the immune cells go, woo, 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 what's up? And they start fighting, because that's their job. And then you weaken the lining of the intestines, and that bacteria that doesn't have any business being anywhere but in the mucus moves its way out of the small intestine into the blood. And now they're finding that this bacteria, the same bacteria that the immune cells identified in the small intestine, is now also found in your joints. Hello, rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow.
In your thyroid. Hello. So the immune system is really in the gut. What we eat 100% affects it. And if the lining of the gut is not solid in the way it was created to be, then we have disruption. And we have a dysbiosis and imbalance. And so it is food, and the digestive tract starts in the mouth and it goes all the way down. And then the spirit part of it. I mean, trust your gut. For me, it is faith. My whole life is based on my faith. And I have a big point of view about faith because I feel that it should be big, because it has to embrace everybody. Right. And that's how I feel about food. Everyone is different. Everyone has a different excess that they eat. Meaning not amount, but certain things they eat the same things. And so I'm about gut diversity and human diversity.
And Mee was nice enough to go into production with us today. And it's cool if you tune in on Wednesday at 2 p.m. here in the Tampa Bay market. Of course, we're syndicated around the world now, or you can watch it online on BloomTampaBay.com. But you joined us for a cooking segment, and you kind of mentioned some buzzwords that you say are being talked about a lot that really went into how you prepared this incredible, it was like a
citrus pomegranate salsa.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's good. We went salsa.
You should do that again.
Okay, salsa.
Yeah, I mean, because it's low FODMAP. So this is something that I really love understanding. So low FODMAP means these are the fermentable carbohydrates that ferment in the colon and move their way into the small intestine, and they cause all kinds of digestive disruption, from gas, bloating, diarrhea, acid reflux. And so, the FODMAP diet is a blanket diet. You eliminate the fermentable carbohydrates, which are asparagus, artichokes, Brussels sprouts. So it's healthy, great food. This is really important to me. It's healthy food. We want to make everything bad. We're like, oh, soy bad, gluten bad. For me, gluten is not my friend, but it's not bad. And there isn't a one shoe fits all. But now with the advancement of microbiome studying and individual journeys, we can figure out what works for us. So a low FODMAP diet is a fantastic practice to figure out which foods are fermenting and which colony you have an overgrowth. And then you can bring that colony down and change the gut bacteria. And then I said SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. So that's when that bacteria in the colon moves into the small intestine, and it's got the immune cells, and it doesn't belong there, and it's crowded, and nobody needs to be here. And so then we're disrupted. So these are things I'm really passionate about, because basically SIBO is it's IBS. I mean, instead of going to the doctor and they say, you got the IBS, but then what do? This is now where microbiome science is like, I'm obsessed.
And you should be, and it's tasty. Microbiome science is tasty. I mean, even down to, yes, you can have it, y'all, the maple syrup that went in there, and you might think, oh, maple syrup, can I eat that? But just a little taste of that, and break that down for us.
Well, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup does not ferment in the colon. So your body can use it. And so that's the serving. It's knowing what I love about microbiome science and food is you're feeding, I call them the gut homies, okay?
I love that.
The gut homies. And those are the bacteria that live in us. And they're not all bad, but when they get out of balance and the colony gets overgrown, then you've got to reel it in. And you can change your gut with every meal. So, and it's food that influences it. I know there's all kinds of supplements and drinks and foods, but I'm just about what can I make to make myself feel better or to support a loved one and help them feel better so they can participate.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Was this overwhelming at first, like learning all the science and learning what actually worked for you?
I mean, it is overwhelming. And that's why now I do work as a consultant and a cooking coach with people, because it's very overwhelming. And it is overwhelming because to keep yourself in wellness, you have to change your food. We cannot eat the same things.
And it's a daily choice, right?
It's you're either feeding disease or starving it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to starve disease, I'm trying to feed wellness. And so it's really overwhelming. You feel like it's hard. You don't understand. You feel alone. You're overwhelmed. You're frustrated. Or maybe it's not you that has to change their food, but it's a child. And the poor baby child doesn't want to change their food. And you as a mother or a father, you're just overwhelmed and you work all day. And so I love showing recipes like we did today on the show that are really easy, they're familiar, they're bright, and then understand, like, you can do this. We got this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talked about it earlier on the show that a lot of people look at cooking as such a dread. But with the kind of recipes that you have in your cookbooks, it doesn't have to be. I mean, every night, and I didn't cook because I didn't start learning to cook because I thought I was some top chef. I did it because I have 4 kids, and my husband and I enjoy sitting around the table, and going out just wasn't an affordable option. But it's interesting because each child gets so into cooking. I mean, now they're, 16, 18, 24, 26, and they love food. And I was watching my daughter just chop up her cucumbers and, her salad. And it almost becomes almost cathartic to just sit around and chop and talk and hang and eat together. It's one of the most beautiful pastimes that my family has.
Well, it's all about the relationship, right? So it's creating a place for relationship in your home. And the heart of the home is the kitchen. And when you're preparing food for people you love, you're nurturing them with nutrition. And it's relationship. And people say, what do I do first? I need to change my food, and we eat terrible. And that's our biggest judgment, is our food, and our relationship with food is emotional, right? It's our most sacred, private situation. So you're overwhelmed. You want to change the kitchen. You want to bring your family to the table like you did. So what do? You just take care of you, and you just start doing it. And we have to live by example. And when you slow down and you cook food and you just do your best, little changes, real slow, you don't make a big to-do, no to-do. You just reel it in and you change the energy in your kitchen. And I do that with clients. I'm like, we got to change the energy in here. We got to make this our spiritual place, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's got to feel good. We're going to organize. I'm going to have music on. And then your kids gravitate. And then you bring them to the table slowly, but you have to hold the space at the table.
I agree 100%.
I think that's great because for me, even now, I'm still learning how to cook good food, but I get very overwhelmed in the kitchen.
Yeah, because anxiety is like the worst ingredient to cook with.
Mm-hmm. It's awful.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to start sometimes, but I like that, you put music on, you make it a fun place.
You before you even start to cook, you put music on, and maybe you light a candle.
Yeah.
Or you open up the windows. And then you clean. You get a little, you get into your, you give your kitchen a zhuzh. That's my favorite word. Give it a zhuzh. And you just fix up your kitchen. And maybe if you're overwhelmed by the food, you go set a pretty table. And then you go back into the kitchen, and then you just start with one recipe, the most simple recipe. And I love to create classic Southern comfort food and change the ingredients. Because if the kids have a relationship with it, an idea of it, and you can just shift things, or you do, then you're in.
So let's talk about you and what's next for you. You're going to start working with hospitality groups, or already are, consulting, working with individuals.
Yeah, so I just launched a consulting business, and I'm working with hospitality groups to go in and change their line, not change the complete line, but to create an inclusive kitchen in their kitchen, right? So to create more allergy-friendly dishes on the menu, because if you're gluten-free and you go out, you might get the salad. And then you don't want to go out. And there's a huge market. I ran a restaurant for 7 years, and I had a line out the door, and I was an hour away from Nashville in the middle of nowhere. And that's because people are looking for a place where everyone has a seat at the table, and they have delicious options. So I'm working with a couple hospitality groups right now to create more inclusive menu items and to shift the consciousness and the culture of the kitchen, because anxious kitchens create anxious food, and we are eating anxious food in restaurants, and changing a culture in a kitchen to a calm, sort of loving environment is unheard of. And I did it for 7 years. I know it exists. And then I'm working with individual people. So just what you're saying, you don't know how to set your kitchen. You just got a diagnosis, whether it's cancer or it's diabetes, or the nutritionist or the dietitian says, you need to change your food. Well, then give me what they sent you, and I sit down and I create bespoke recipes for just you or just that child, or a recipe that's super inclusive that I know the entire family is going to eat, so you don't have to make 5 different things. And I really love this part, because I'm teaching people how to cook, from the seasoned cook that's overwhelmed to the beginner, and this is my passion. This is where I'm being asked to serve right now, and it feels good.
What would you say to the person out there listening that wants to start making changes but feels a little bit overwhelmed? What direction would you turn them in?
The first thing I would say is just slow down and pay attention to what you are eating, and not with judgment, not with shame, but just stop, slow down. What did you just take a bite of? What are you doing? What's your habit? What's in your fridge? And then I would say from there, don't go to the grocery store and buy all the things, because that's just setting you up for failure, right? Like, find a recipe that's in alignment with what you need to eat, and let's gather the ingredients for one recipe, and let's start with that one recipe. And then we're going to add another recipe. And then with the mindfulness of what you're eating and what you're doing, you're going to start shifting, because you're being gentle with yourself. And to change our lives, we have to really love ourselves, and we have to slow down and be kind.
Sarah, do you have any questions for me?
I have a fun question. What, from start to finish of your typical day, what's your ideal day of eating?
Oh, I love home. I could be a home ec teacher, but I don't want to have to leave the house. We need home ec. My typical day of eating, I love to wake up really early. I do drink coffee. I have a cup of coffee, and then I love to make breakfast. I've just been making this buckwheat porridges. I make a different type of porridge about 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and I rotate. That's the whole thing, is diversity is the answer to balance. And so I've just made this buckwheat porridge with wild blueberries, a little banana, and hemp hearts. I'm hemp heart crazy.
What's a hemp
Yeah,
heart?
what is that?
Hemp hearts. They're little hemp seeds. And you buy them and you sprinkle them on everything, and they have the most amazing flavor. They're great for people who have nut allergies, because I'm always thinking about other people. I mean, that's the key, right? Is to serve. So hemp hearts are fantastic. You can make a hemp parmesan for vegans. You can put it on cereals and smoothies. They're loaded with omega-3s. They're
Where do you find them? Like Whole Foods type
Yeah,
place?
or even I think they've got them at the Kroger or the Publix.
Okay.
I like the Kroger.
Kroger.
I just gave you all a shout out, by the way.
The Kroger and the Publix.
And then I love to then take my time, work in my office. I love laundry. I know you're like, who's this woman? But it's something I can do. I can finish. And then I love to make lunch, and I love to cook for my husband and my children. I love when they like it. I just get like this whole feeling inside. Or if I post a video on social media and people are like, I made it. Or they see me in the grocery car, in the grocery store, and they're like, I made it.
And they
I'm
say,
like,
what's in the buggy?
What's in the buggy? I know, I call it the buggy.
Well, Well, I got to tell you, you are a real inspiration. Your two cookbooks again are My Kitchen Cure, How I Cooked My Way Out of Chronic Autoimmune Disease, and My Pinewood Kitchen, A Southern Culinary Cure. Two great books, which, by the way, when we cook today in the kitchen and the recipe that's going to air on Wednesday, which cookbook did that come out of? Because I loved that.
That's about to come out of my new book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
we
as
got an
I'm working with,
exclusive?
as I'm working with clients and I'm creating these unique recipes for their wellness, I'm just building a stack. And I thought, you know what, I've really got to write about this. You know, vibrant food and just this low FODMAP and so many people. I want to cook for you all. Okay, can you come over?
Yeah, I wish I could. I'll be the first one knocking at your
I'll
door.
come.
Mee McCormick, thank you for being a member of the Bloom Health Club. We love you, and we hope you come back to Tampa. And we hear you like it a lot, so you always have a welcome mat here.
Oh, I love that y'all had me here. It really came in the right time for me, and I'm super grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.